It's it's a lot, man. So WNBA finals last night came to
Yes.
a conclusion. Um,
Man, like how people say like it wasn't a sprint, it was a crawl. This wasn't even a crawl. This was a roll.
man, this was I talked about it on the channel as well yesterday, but man, it felt like to me this felt like Lakers Celtics in 2010.
That's
Like
an insult to that game.
like
You know what this felt like to me?
what?
Remember the whole stretch for like I guess the last like 5 minutes of Game 7 2016 Finals where like it was gridlocked at 89
Yeah.
for forever, and then the Warriors actually didn't even score ever again. It was like that for all 40 minutes. I'm sorry, well 45 minutes. Sorry, it went
Yeah.
overtime. Oh man,
I kind of found the game like, pretty compelling, like in a
it
strange
was,
way.
it was also like this bad basketball and the Russ letting it go because they don't want to, they don't want to be scrutinized. And ultimately, what they end up doing is like they're letting people get away with murder while also having a gigantic foul discrepancy. Where it's like, how do you let that happen?
Yeah. So the New York Liberty did get the win over the Minnesota Lynx. I had picked the Lynx to win, and I think I was actually kind of right. Had they not been jobbed at the end, um, I enjoyed the game. I thought it was the end of a long series. These people were probably very nervous, and a lot of these series deciding games kind of go like this. If it's like a game 7, game 5 of these series is like this, like game was not a reflection of the entire series. The entire
Yeah,
series was filled with great basketball, with like great up and down scoring, fundamentals, like shooting, offense, like, and it went into the muck last night. Um, but I guess we got to start with Cheryl Reeve kind of going crazy in the press conference and essentially saying this was rigged for money or ratings. Sorry,
yeah,
I don't know
full,
which, but
full Aisha Curry. Yep.
she was like, we were stolen from in so many words. Like, I was like, yo, she's trying to get the mother of fines. Um, just breaking it down, like, I,
Real quick, we will break it down. But you just said mother of fives. What does an NBA what does a WNBA coach make these days?
brother, I'm sure her salary is public, so we can probably find that.
That's yeah,
So chat room, please do your jobs. Cheryl
yeah.
Reeves' salary, please drop that
Like let us
in the
know the
search.
salary so we can give a guesstimation on what that fine is going to be. Because I remember, I think the biggest fine I can remember for a coach was like the playoffs that year when Jeff Van they or the MNBA hit Jeff Gundy Van Gundy with that huge like Yao Ming is being targeted fine. I think it was $100,000.
Look, it was my okay. She makes 700,000, so it was my guess that my guess was 25.
25.
Yeah, that was my guess.
She might get with 50.
Fully possible,
Yeah.
fully possible. Like I, when you look at Nafisa Collier, got 0 free throw attempts, and all she did was terrorize in the paint. You can see her in the background of my background. She was just spectacular this entire series, and she put Breanna Stewart in jail for a lot of this series, and she really she was like this stone-faced warrior, and I was like in awe watching her. And for me, a lot of people have talked about the refs, and there's no doubt that you know there was a flop at the end, and I think it was a bad call. I wouldn't have called a foul in that situation, right? And Minnesota likely wins that, right? But when you start looking further into this game, the people that played good were Nafisa Collier and Kayla McBride. The rest of the team did not have anything to show for it in the box score. Like, it was, if they get one more person that's worth a damn on a night where they lock up Breanna Stewart, where Brianna or Sabrina Ionescu shits down her leg, like, Oh, I'm sorry. The other person that's an MVP candidate, a former league MVP, All Star, second team All WNBA, she steps up, and then what happens? Niara Sabali just falls out of the sky and decides to come off the bench and score
Right.
like 14 points. And
Phoebe had big moments too
yep,
at the end.
yep. So it was like you just got fucked. That's really what it comes down to.
Like
it
if
seems
Courtney
like
Williams does anything, they win.
anything.
And to be fair, you can say the same thing about. I mean, like the game is not a close game if Sabrina Ionescu does anything in the game.
She was so bad this series. Aside from that one shot,
she was. I mean, it's my background for a reason. She made that shot. Everything else, all ass.
Like this was not the mom mentality. Like I don't. Like I'll give her credit though. Like for Game 7 because it takes
5.
It takes a lot to go out there and go 1-19 and basically just not quit, essentially, like, and sulk and everything like that. She stayed competitive. I think she still had like 8 rebounds or 8 assists, 7 and 8, essentially on those.
During the Sabali run, she actually did. She, offensively, she was finding her nice pocket passes to get Sabali the ball. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, Breanna Stewart, I was thoroughly unimpressed with her throughout the series. Like aside from I think maybe one game, and it was
that game 2, game 2, right?
Game 3.
I thought game 2 is when she had like the 21 points.
Game 3, she had 30. Like she had like 30 and 10.
So basically, she had 2 good games and then 3 bad games.
Yeah, and featuring several chokes. And like last night, it was like
game 4. Look, it never goes to game 5 because one thing about her is like she's still making defensive plays. Like that block she has on the who is the backup point guard with the braids?
Heidemann.
Yeah, she put her in jail.
Yeah.
For one of those possessions or two of those possessions, right? But like the end of game 4, Jonquel throws up something, and you see Breanna run for offensive glass immediately, right? And just put it back up. Put it back up, goes to the line, clanks him. I was like, even the stuff where it's like she ain't giving up on effort. It's just not going. It just ain't going. Not happening. Like, and that was the crazy thing about watching the Liberty win this is like they're 2 all NBA or all WNBA players completely melted down.
Or two
I think
of
they were
their
5
3.
or 34, something like that.
Yeah, 2 of their 3. Yeah, they were like 5 of 34.
I forgot Jonquel. I'm sorry. Well, yeah. They're 2 Olympians. Sorry, that's a better way to put it. Yeah. So it was just, man.
And when she missed those free throws again, like she had multiple free throw
line, both of them free throws. Yep.
Multiple free throw line meltdowns in the series, and then like
game 1 happened. Yep.
She actually got a second chance to redeem herself, and then like I was relieved for her because it's like you don't ever want nobody to like wear no shit like that because that's like that could shake you the rest of your career, like failing in that moment or whatever. But I saw this and I didn't feel like I felt like the Lynx were so outgunned kind of it just talent wise, like they were a really hard trying team that maxed out essentially, like, and I feel like this is really one that got away for them. Like if you lay it on paper, New York Liberty have been the best team in the league all year. They probably should have won 9 times out of 10. They'll probably win this series, but this was the 10th time where it was like they played them well and they got them. Like, and then the refs took it away. And Cheryl Reeve was not pleased. We do have a question from Dan Coffin. He said, do you think the reffing was exceptionally bad this season, or has it always been subpar and it is just more visible with the explosion of linear eyeballs now watching the games?
Oh, that's got to be the case. Like that, and that is the case when it comes to all of this. When you watch, if you're a person that only watches pro sports, you're watching the top pro sports, and you were watching a set of refs, you get into your bag of saying like this person or this crew or this group field of refs are incompetent or whatever your jokes are, right? But it's always without fail, the lower you go as far as the level of whatever the play is, it's also the case with the refs. So like you can watch the NFL all weekend and be like, these refs are incompetent. And then you can watch Saturday night between Georgia and Texas when they had that fiasco where they call a terrible pass interference call, lined it up to reflect that they moved the chains to reflect that it was new down and distance to reflect the first down given for defensive for that defensive pass interference. Then had Texas fans throw bottles on the field, didn't call them for a penalty. They were probably afraid they were going to get the old school mugging that refs used to get back in the early 1900s. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, they say they reviewed it and they changed their mind. How do you review and change your mind when you set the damn the first down again? How did that happen? Oh, you're lying? Oh, yeah. So yeah, it's always the lower you go, it gets worse. And like, I mean, the SEC ain't even the worst set of officials in college football. You got the Pac-12 and the ACC still. So yeah, they don't. It's always gets worse. It's how it is. It's how it is. You got to deal with that. College basketball reffing is so much worse than NBA reffing. So much worse.
There were games like I don't know if you remember the Fever and Sun game 2. Like Caitlin was getting clobbered to no calls. Like taken out the air. They were landing under her when she was shooting threes to no calls. Like this has been a constantly complained about thing from people.
Yes, it's a big point of frustration for someone that's been watching men's pro ball, and then you're dropped into having to adjust. Part it's like, oh, they treat this shit like it's the NBA in the 90s.
Like they ain't calling shit. Get your ass up.
Yeah,
all that. Like
so two people can hit the deck and they'll let that shit slide.
Yeah.
And if that happened in the NBA, and when that happens in the NBA, you hear the crowd just let out that like what the hell's happening? Like a tragedy has ensued. Yeah. So yeah. It's totally different.
But I want to talk about Nafisa Collier again. Like, there's an argument that she could have been the Finals MVP.
That's my argument.
It just don't tend to work that way. But
yeah, we have to do the thing where like Jerry West will be the only person that will ever be the loser on the Finals MVP. He was like, she's the best player in the series. Knock it off.
Yeah, man. It was
like for all the stuff of Jonquel Jones, her numbers being similar, like. Nafisa Collier was an absolute menace defensively, and Jones is a great defender too. But there were times where she was getting picked on left in switches or whatever else by like McBride or even Collier. Like there was a possession where I pointed out to you where it's like they ended with Jonquel on Collier, and it was like, all right, well then have Collier set the screen for McBride because. Like when they went really big with Sabally and Brianna and Jones, like McBride was doing whatever she wanted to Sabally defensively for a stretch. So it was like, all right, now have Nafisa go set the screen and try to get a switch. So you have a mismatch somewhere in foot speed, and instead they brought two people into it, and like somehow. Nafisa was able to roll and then still get behind Brianna after Brianna was able to switch back on. And I was like, in the NBA, we would talk about how that's just bad offense. That's just bad, not thinking the process through it. But luckily, Nafisa's so damn cold that she made it work anyway.
Yeah, just like when you talk about like people that walk into arenas and nothing phases them, and I imagine they scare the bejesus out of the crowd. She's on that list, like, and it was
the reason why she finished second MVP voting.
Yeah,
there's a reason why she ended up winning Defensive Player of the Year and then putting Brianna in hell for 5 games.
Like. And basically, like, she went against this entire front line of the Liberty. She's 6'1". Like, she's given up, like, 3 inches in, like, everywhere she looks, essentially. So, like...
she's a stretch 4.
Yeah. Like... Who else? Kayla McBride was awesome all throughout the series too.
Yeah.
Soulless, as I call her, like there's no expression on her face at all. Will just bust your ass and kill you. Plays a very aesthetically pleasing game as well. Kirby was talking about her all night.
Yeah.
But yeah, man.
And that might have been Kirby's first WNBA game of the year.
Right.
In its entirety.
But yeah, man, like, you know, for what it means for Liberty got their first franchise, you know, championship ever. Won it at home, and you know, I couldn't imagine that many of these things bothered you, like as far as the reffing, the stars shitting the bed. You just happy, you know, to win the title and all that. But they have been the best team all year. They've owned the league, and you know, they kind of have set the blueprint in, I don't know, maybe like 4 years or whatever to take them from where they came to where they are now. Like it kind of started with the drafting of Betnijah Laney Hamilton and Sabrina Ionescu, and then from there, like the new ownership changed. They got them out of Westchester, you know, brought them to Brooklyn facilities, and then started, you know, signing, you know, putting money into the team. So it's going to be interesting to see if other ownership groups follow up. It's also going to be interesting in light of the collective bargaining agreement, the players opting out, and they have 1 year now to negotiate a new one. Next season is not in jeopardy. That will play as normal. But after that, you know, they got to figure something out. But there are so many factors other than, hey, the players should just make more money, because that's where I normally land. But it's like, I think so much is like tied up in this where it's almost like, I would love to give you more money, but where is it coming from? Like,
I mean, I think it's just the idea of the same thing that happened in the NBA, where like they had to lock out in, or sorry, they had to. It wasn't a lockout. It was it was a lockout. It wasn't player strike. It was a lockout in in 2012. And then all of a sudden that got done, and then next thing you know, there's new TV deals, and they exploded the money, and then this next batch is going to explode the money again, and like they just got their new TV deal, which is an explosion of income. So they're seeing the NBA and these salaries, and like, all right, well, how are is going to reflect that, and also like the valuations or the value of these teams now. These teams have had to have jumped in value, and also given expansion rights that also should influx cash. So like,
and they're seeing all the
they have a reason
attendance.
We want to, you know, and tickets and attendance going up because of this rookie class. Headlined by Caitlin Clark. So like, yeah, I see why they're like, hey man, like something ain't right. We need to look at these books for real. So. Yeah. And also nice bit of business by them by like, yeah, we're gonna start this other league on the side.
We see it coming.
So like our you know, our most powerful players in this union or whatever else, they'll have their income supplement, so they can, you know, they won't be out here ready to just bend over, let you know, labor kill them. So
yeah. Like there's a lot of different factors going into it. They're including like other investors like Pau Gasol, Baron Davis, Claire Wu-Tsai, a couple other people on that list. I believe JML actually sent me a list. There was like, they did an investment of like $75 million. The NBA is putting their portion in as well. And then it's like the players then get what's left of that, assuming like on the comeback essentially. But it's almost like you got to pay the investors off first. So it could get really messy. I'm still learning about it, but
same.
Yeah, like so like I can't like tell you, but like I did not like the players dropping that, essentially a rollout, because we know how public perception works on this stuff, and they're probably going to think about them anyway.
Yeah, the whole nation is a group full of workers, but yet they hate you know, working factions. It's labor. It's the most ridiculous thing. Except for, you know, police. That's it.
Yeah.
Except for police.
Yeah, because like I saw that and I was just like, I don't know if this is the tone. Like, because I feel like if you're the WNBA, you want to try to like rally the public on your side as much as possible because you are a league that has struggled with popularity, with likability, and I guess they figure like they ain't never gonna love us anyway.
Yeah,
So
there's a big part of that is like they're not gonna like this black lesbian league. They're just not. So we got to push forward and do what's right for us anyway.
yeah, so that's the only other side of it. But
Also known as motherfuckers never loved us.
yes, yes. Uh, you know, if you're Caitlin Clark, man, you have came into this league and like now a lockout might be on the other side of this, and it's all like
There's always some shit
based on your value essentially. Man,
it's a lot of it's tied to her value, and I was saying this to you earlier. Like she gonna have to be at the forefront of this shit. Otherwise, they gonna look at her in that locker or in them locker rooms and that whole sorority like this motherfucker's Hogan. Like we was ready to do something or whatever else, and she lamed out. Like she gonna have to get her ass to the front.
Yeah.
She's gonna have to. Otherwise, it's gonna be a rough social life in that league.
I'm trying to remember.
Also, she need to do it because you're like, hey, I need to get this money. I want my cuts.
Yeah. So they are trying to recruit her to Unrivaled now. I don't know how that's going to go, but supposedly they're going to put the full court press on her to get her in that. I don't know. We'll see if she shows up there. But it was a interesting kind of break of news here. But I had a lot of fun talking about the WNBA all this year. I kind of found like a new lane and all that. So if you're interested in more like WNBA talk, at least for me, go over to my YouTube channel, subscribe on there. I'm putting up videos all the time, breaking down the news as I see it, reacting to shit, cutting through a lot of the bullshit because like, I don't know, I guess what made me feel like I was qualified to start talking about this was like, I love basketball. I have enjoyed the women's game in some form or another since I was a small child when I had to go to my older sister's high school practices. She was a point guard starter for 4 years, at high school, and I was at every basketball practice with her, all her games. So like from then I just kind of knew I was a fan as, the WNBA got started when I was a child, watched it up until I don't know, maybe like 2004 kind of consistently. And then I just kind of kept tabs on it from afar, but fell out of it after a while. And, the league struggled a lot. And then I started, seeing the way they were playing in college last year. And I was like, yo, I'm just going to keep watching. I think something's there. And I saw so many good players this year that I'm interested in like being fans of and learning more about and covering. And it was like, I think, and not only because like, from my own personal, like, what I'm getting out of it as far as like, YouTube is starting to do well for me. I think the players deserve it and they deserve people, someone to cover them in a fair way and not a way that is like, taking out their problems with women on them and like their political, issues with them. Like, there's a lot of voices in the women's basketball coverage space, especially on something like YouTube, where it's like you can go and listen to essentially like, I don't even want to give them light, but y'all know the loud motherfuckers with wrestling podcasts that are often very wrong. Like like there's that, and then there's other people that are doing good work. So I want to be one of those people that does good work or whatever and still entertains, and never know where that might take me. Like the door's already opening. So but yeah, I'm going right into covering women's college basketball after this and following it. So there's a huge USC UConn game. I'm sure we're gonna talk about on this show. There's plenty of and so much, I think if people give the women's game a chance, you will really like it. Like, and you might like it more than the men's game, because if there's one thing I noticed was like a lot of the subtle complaints that I had about like the NBA and stuff like that. I did not
load management, the end of games dragging to an absolute halt because it has to be 59 goddamn commercial breaks. Like, it's a lot like when you were watching the Olympics, where it's like, what? Remember how fun basketball used to be when there weren't like a million commercial breaks in crunch time? Yes.
And then the people caring about the All-Star game, people like playing both sides of the floor like hard, and like the finals being ultra competitive still. Like, I watched
allowing people to be physical.
yeah. Like I watched a lot of the NBA this past season, and ironically, the NBA is about to start on Tuesday, and I just felt myself like not loving it as much. Like, and it was like I've loved basketball my whole life. Like, and I love the players, and I love the league. And then it's just like, why is these things just going this way? And I found a safe haven in the WNBA, kind of.
Yeah, I mean it's refreshing to watch compared to what we've seen out of the NBA in the last I don't know, let's say over the changes in the decade.
Yeah,
because it's just been or let's be real, like pretty much since like 2016,
yeah,
where it's like okay, like they care less and less about the All-Star game, they care less and less about everything. You gotta pay them more and more money, and the players care less. And I don't want to get on the players, but it's like at some point, like we got to care about something besides the playoffs.
right.
And it's like once you get to your second deal now, like once you get past like year 4, like guys kind of just like, whatever. Like the effort, it just seems like the effort is not there on a night-to-night basis. Like where it's like you could, like I watched LeBron James more than any other basketball player I've ever seen, and like when he was in Miami, like that's the first time I ever like even decided. That's the first time I came across like saying, "Hey, I'm gonna get a stream to watch League Pass stuff," and to watch like those Heat teams play, and it's like that's the first time I ever like followed consistently, and to see like that compared to like you throw on a League Pass game, unless it's something that you're really into, you can just be like bored out. You might like watching them Spurs games beginning of the year when women letting them play. Them dudes didn't know how to play women. I was like really frustrated. It's like you are pro basketball players. What the fuck is going on? So I don't know if you've seen in the preseason.